got him in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yes.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man. I banged it just enough to get my room so I could ram his shit up, ram it up his ass. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab me. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face.
Max B and Jim Jones used to be tight like brothers, but the second Jim tossed that loyalty aside, everything changed. That's when Max flipped the script and went from being Jim's secret weapon to his biggest nightmare. From allegedly snatching Jim's girl to trashing his car and turning Harlem into a straight-up battlefield, Max B made it clear he wasn't backing down for nobody. Charlie Wingate, better known as Max B, came up right in the heart of Harlem, New York, born into the chaos of the Abraham Lincoln housing projects. His story wasn't just about music, it was about pain, survival, and finding a voice when the world kept trying to silence him. His mom was caught up in addiction and spent time in and out of prison, leaving his grandmother to raise him with tough love and deep faith. She became his rock, his safe place in a world that rarely gave second chances. But the streets? They were always calling his name. Before he was wavy, before the fame and the beef, young Charlie was in the Harlem Boys choir, hitting notes that made people stop and listen. That's where the seeds of the wavy one were first planted. That lazy, melodic tone, that smooth flow that felt like a mix of pain and poetry. Even back then, you could hear the emotion in his voice, like he was carrying every broken promise in Harlem inside him. But that melody couldn't hide the truth forever. The struggle was waiting around every corner. By 18, the streets had pulled him all the way in. In 1997, he got caught up in a robbery case that landed him behind bars for about 8 long years.
My name is Max B, aka Max Bigavell. We know Bigavell stands for Big Jig and Pac, right? But where did the
Big
name...
Jig and Machiavelli, baby.
Yeah.
Big Jig and Machiavelli.
But instead of breaking, Max used that time to rebuild himself. He studied, plotted, and dreamed. And when those prison gates opened in 2005, he came out a new man with a sharper mind and even sharper ambition. That's when the world met Max Bigavelli, a name that spoke volumes. He fused the names of legends, Biggie, Machiavelli, Tupac, and Jay-Z, calling himself the perfect mix of street wisdom, lyrical pain, and undeniable charisma. His sound wasn't polished or pretty. It was raw, hypnotic, and addictive, the kind of music that could make you feel everything at once. Max believed he was born for greatness, and honestly, Harlem started to believe it too. Every verse he dropped felt like a confession wrapped in melody. Every hook hit like a memory you couldn't shake off. Max B didn't just rap. He created a vibe, a feeling, something that made the city move differently. He was the living definition of pain turned poetry, and when he linked with Jim Jones, it looked like they were about to change the game forever. When Max finally stepped out of those prison gates, Harlem was alive with energy. The block was buzzing like never before. The Diplomats had the city in a chokehold. Cameron and Jim Jones were kings of the uptown sound, running the streets and setting the tone for an entire era. Everyone wanted to be Dipset, dress like them, talk like them, and sound like them. Max linked back up with Cam, who had always kept a finger on Harlem's pulse, and that connection changed everything. Through Cam, Max got introduced to Jim Jones, and that's when the story took off like wildfire. Jim saw something in Max that nobody else had, that mix of pain, melody, and pure street charisma. Before long, Jim signed him to Bird Gang, and Max officially became part of Harlem's most talked-about crew. Once Max linked with legendary Harlem producer Dame Grease, it was over. The chemistry between them was instant, like magic in the studio. Every beat Dame cooked up seemed built for Max's voice. That smooth, melodic delivery mixed with that gritty, unapologetic attitude. Together, they crafted a sound that felt fresh, unpredictable, and straight from the heart of the streets. Then came $1 Million Baby in 2006, Max B's first mixtape, and Harlem lost its mind. The way he sang, the way he flowed, it wasn't polished, but it was real. His voice carried pain and pride all at once. His style screamed confidence, and his delivery had this effortless flair that made every track addictive. It was like lightning trapped in a bottle, and raw, electric, and impossible to ignore. Harlem had never heard anything like it before. Bird Gang wasn't just a crew, It was a movement. Alongside Max B, Jim Jones had another rising star in his corner, Stack Bundles, a young hustler from Queens who was building his own legend. With both Max and Stack under his wing, Jim was sitting on a gold mine. Two raw talents who could turn any beat into a street anthem.
Boyfriend Charlie Wingate, aka Max B, a rapper, about the men's money. Then Wingate reaches out to this man, Calvin Leardom.
Max quickly became the secret weapon of the whole operation. His voice, his hooks, that smooth melodic tone. It gave Jim's records a whole new life. Songs like Baby Girl had the city hypnotized, blasting from every car and every bodega radio up and down Harlem. Whenever Max jumped on a track, it just hit different. His presence made everything sound bigger, slicker, and more alive. Jim had the flash, Stack had the bars, but Max had the soul. But for all the success, one thing never changed. The streets never stopped calling Max B. No matter how far the music took him, that pull to the hustle was always there, waiting to drag him back in. And in September 2006, everything flipped. Word got back to Max through his ex, Gina Conway, about a flashy guy named Alan J. Plowden, a smooth talker with a taste for luxury and a habit of keeping stacks of cash close by. He was running a shady mortgage and mail fraud hustle, always showing off his money and his cars like he was untouchable.
It all began the morning of September 22nd at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. Police are called there after a man is shot to death. The victim, David Taylor from Florida, was staying in room 227.
According to Gina, she told Max everything. And allegedly, that's when his hunger mixed with jealousy. She later claimed that Max looked at her and basically said they could hit a lick, that this one move could change everything and he'd make it worth everybody's while. It was risky, dangerous, and reckless, but in Max's mind, the streets had never let him down before. Little did he know that one decision was about to blow everything apart. What happened next still sparks debate to this day. Everyone's got their own version, but the ending was tragic and undeniable. Max B wasn't even at the scene when it all went down, but prosecutors claimed he was the mastermind who set everything in motion. According to them, Max didn't need to pull the trigger. He was the one pulling the strings. His ex, Gina Conway, who was caught between dealing, dancing, and chasing fast money, became the state's key witness. In court, she testified that Max sent her and his stepbrother Kelvin Sims Leardam to hit Alan J. Plowden at a Holiday Inn out in Fort Lee, New Jersey. The plan sounded simple. Wait until he went out clubbing, sneak into his room, and take whatever cash they could find. But what started as an easy score turned into a total disaster. According to reports, everything that could go wrong did. Gina and Sims spent hours driving in circles, missing exits, getting lost, and arguing, wasting precious time while Plowden returned to his room. When they finally made it there, he wasn't out like they expected. He was back in bed, sleeping beside another woman. Things were already out of control. And then, out of nowhere, another man, David Taylor, walked into the room. He wasn't part of the plan at all. In a panic, Sims pulled out his gun, and in one split-second decision, everything changed forever. He shot Taylor execution style, right in the face. That one shot turned a sloppy robbery into a full-blown murder case that would haunt everyone involved.
I'm in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yeah.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man.
It all unfolded in the early hours of September 22nd, 2006, at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. When police rushed to room 227, they found David Taylor, a 25-year-old man from Florida, dead from a single gunshot wound. The scene was chaos, and it didn't take long for detectives to start piecing together the truth. Gina Conway was the first domino to fall. Once the cops caught her, she cracked under pressure and gave up everything. To save herself, she handed over a massive 169-page statement, painting Max B as the brains behind it all. She claimed he promised her love, money, loyalty, a forever kind of bond, if she helped pull it off. And when the feds came for Max, they didn't play around, they came hard. He was arrested and hit with life-changing charges, including felony murder, conspiracy, and robbery. The court didn't hesitate. They slapped him with a $2 million bail. And just like that, the man who was once Harlem's most promising star became the center of one of the biggest scandals in New York hip-hop history. While Max B sat in that cold gray jail cell, time stood still for him, but the world outside kept spinning fast. Harlem was still moving, the music was still booming, and the man he once called his brother Jim Jones was suddenly everywhere. Jim dropped We Fly High, the record that would change everything. The second that ballad ad-lib hit the airwaves, it was over. The track took off like wildfire. Blasting from cars, clubs, and radios coast to coast, it became an anthem of success, swagger, and street victory. For Jim, it was the biggest hit of his career, the song that turned him from a neighborhood name into a mainstream star. But behind those cell walls, Max B was furious. He claimed he was the real genius behind the record, the one who actually wrote the hook and crafted the melody that made it unforgettable. According to Max, not only did he ghostwrite We Fly High, but he also helped shape most of Jim's biggest songs during that golden run. To him, it wasn't just about credit, it was about betrayal. While Jim was out there doing interviews, flashing jewelry, and cashing massive checks, Max was locked up, fighting for his freedom, his name, and his spot in the game. The music industry had already started to forget him, but his loyal fans refused to let his name fade away. After 10 long months behind bars, the court finally gave Max a break. His bail was reduced to $90,000. It wasn't freedom yet, but it was a lifeline. For the first time in almost a year, there was a chance for the wavy one to touch the streets again, and Harlem was waiting to see if Max B would rise from the shadows or get swallowed by them. That's when Jim Jones stepped in, but not like a loyal friend would. Instead of showing love to the man who helped shape his sound, Jim allegedly turned the situation into pure business. Reports say he saw Max's desperation as leverage, a power move that would shift everything between them. According to insiders, Jim agreed to help bail Max out, but there was a catch. He wanted Max to sign over his publishing rights and lock himself into a 6-album deal under Jim's control.
I banged it just enough to get my room so I could ram his up, ram it up his, right? My window was there, he tried to grab it. So when he came in the window, I punched him in his face.
For Max, stuck in a cell with no money, no freedom, and nobody else to turn to, that deal was his only way out. So, under pressure and out of options, he signed. Just like that, the man who created the wavy sound gave up ownership of it, and Jim walked away holding the keys to the kingdom. When Max B finally stepped out of jail in July 2007, he wasn't the same man. The swagger was still there, but the trust, gone. He was colder, sharper, and filled with resentment. He had tasted betrayal in its rawest form, and now he was free, but chained to a contract that gave away everything he'd built. He was broke, betrayed, and bound. And the person who seemed to be winning from his downfall was none other than Jim Jones, the man he once called brother. While Max was sitting in that cell watching time crawl, Jim's star only kept climbing higher. His name rang through the clubs, the mixtapes, the magazines, everywhere. But what the world didn't see was that behind every big hook, every catchy melody, and every ballin' echoing through speakers, Max's fingerprints were all over it. On the streets, though, something wild was happening. The legend of Max B was growing. His name was circulating through mixtapes, DVDs, and late-night street talk. People were chanting, "Wavy!" like it was gospel. And soon, that wave turned into a movement. Harlem knew who brought that sound to life, even if the industry didn't want to give him credit. And once Max realized just how much of his sound was being used while he was struggling to survive, that anger boiled over. He wasn't just mad, he felt robbed. Financially, artistically, and personally. Jim Jones owned every piece of Max's publishing. That meant every hook, every melodic ad-lib, every slick line Max ever wrote. Jim got paid off it all. That betrayal lit a fire in Max B's heart. He wasn't about to stay quiet anymore. Not after everything he'd lost. The brotherhood was over, the loyalty was dead, and Harlem was about to witness one of the coldest fallouts hip-hop had ever seen. And it wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. The friendship had turned rotten, the loyalty shattered, and all that was left in Max B was cold vengeance and a burning need for payback. He wasn't thinking about making peace. He was thinking about making a statement. So he walked away from Bird Gang, not as a defeated artist, but as a man on a mission. If Jim Jones wasn't going to give him the respect and credit he deserved, then Max was ready to drag his name through the mud for everyone to see. And he wasn't holding anything back. Not long after, the universe handed Max the perfect ally, French Montana. Back then, French wasn't the superstar we know today. He was a gritty Bronx hustler, known for his Cocaine City DVD series, a raw look into street life that had the city buzzing. French had his own beef with Jim Jones too, after a shooting incident where rumors swirled that Jim had tried to damage his name behind the scenes. So when Max and French finally crossed paths, it wasn't just a collaboration. It was a collision of two men who had both been betrayed by the same circle. The chemistry was instant. Together they formed Coke Wave, a movement that would soon flip the streets upside down. This wasn't just a rap duo. This was war energy wrapped in music. Every track they dropped was gritty, bold, and unapologetically Harlem and Bronx combined. Coke Wave became one of the most iconic and savage mixtape movements the underground had ever seen. By then, Max already knew the industry wasn't built to save him. He didn't own his publishing, didn't have label support, and had every reason to give up. But that's not who Max B was. What he did have was a golden voice that dripped with pain and authenticity, and a fan base that refused to forget him. So he took matters into his own hands. Just like a true hustler, he started flooding the streets with music, dropping mixtape after mixtape for free, making sure the people heard what the labels were trying to bury. But Max wasn't just making songs, he was throwing lyrical bombs. Every verse carried shots aimed at Jim Jones and anyone rolling with him. Max didn't care about burning bridges. He wanted to blow them up completely. Every freestyle, every interview, every ad-lib became a weapon. He mocked Jim, questioned his street credibility, and reminded everyone where that wavy sound really came from. Max wasn't playing nice. This was personal payback Harlem style. And the more he spoke, the more fans started to believe that maybe the wave god was the real heartbeat behind all of Jim's success. The first jab came in the form of a mixtape, Public Domain 3. The cover said it all. Max stood in a graveyard, surrounded by tombstones engraved with names like Millie Jim Jones and Vanilli Joel Santana. It was his way of calling them the hip-hop version of Milli Vanilli, faking hits, riding his wave, and lip-syncing their way to fame. Max didn't hold back. He dropped tracks like Lip Sing, Rapping, and I Know Them Dudes Need Me. In his eyes, Jim and Jules were nothing without him. But then things got personal. Max released one of the most disrespectful diss tracks of that era, She Touched It in Miami. In it, he made graphic claims about Jim Jones's longtime girlfriend, Chrissy Lampkin, saying she was with him and his crew in explicit ways. Max laughed through the bars, clowning Jim like a man betrayed by his own circle, and the streets ate it up. Jim was stunned. He tried to brush it off, denying everything and calling Max a washed-up rapper who never made it off the shelf. But the damage was done. The truth was, Max's voice was all over We Fly High's original reference tracks. Fans started wondering, was Jim really the mastermind behind Dipset's biggest hit? And Max wasn't just talking. He claimed Jim tried to ambush him, boxed him in a parking lot. But Max said he saw it coming, rammed Jim's Bentley, and even got a few punches in before driving off. He bragged about it later, showing off the dents in his car like trophies of a street victory. French Montana and others vouched for him, and soon the myth of Max B only grew. Then came November 2008. Max and French decided it was time to face Jim Jones in person. They rolled deep into Manhattan, walked straight into a building where Jim was recording, and made it clear the streets weren't safe for him anymore. But while Max was winning in the streets, he was losing the biggest battle of his life behind the scenes. June 9th, 2009, Bergen County Courthouse. Max B walked in like a man who still believed his wave couldn't drown. Cameras flashing, supporters cheering, that same confident sway in his step. His legal team sounded just as sure. They bragged that they'd destroyed the prosecution's star witness, Gina Conway, the woman at the center of it all. The wave didn't just crash that day, it shattered. By the time 2025 was on the horizon, Max B wasn't just a rapper, he was a myth. His influence rippled everywhere, from underground freestyles to Kanye West's star-studded albums. In fact, Kanye even tried to name his 2016 album Waves, and after the Wave community came for him, he publicly acknowledged Max's impact. Max's voice even appeared on one of Kanye's tracks. Drake and Wiz Khalifa openly credited him as an inspiration. Even Jim Jones, in a rare moment of honesty, admitted that Max B could have been bigger than Drake if prison hadn't stolen those years. Now, as the day of Max's release approached, a question hung over the saga like smoke over Harlem. Are Max and Jim still enemies, or is it finally over? Max, speaking from prison, sounded like a changed man, a husband, a father of 4. The old rage was gone, replaced with perspective. He even hinted at the possibility of finally burying the hatchet. Jim Jones, however, wasn't ready. Though he and French Montana had rekindled their friendship, even dropping music together in 2023, Jim made it clear that Max was still a different situation. He said he didn't wish Max harm, but he wasn't about to get comfortable either. One thing was certain, Max B's wave had never been stronger, and the streets, the culture, and the music world knew it. His story was one of survival, reinvention, and undeniable influence. So if you've been riding the wave with us, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for the full saga of Max B. The man, the myth, the wave god.